Good evening, this is Atmospheric Alex here with yet another weather forecast and discussion. This is going to be for our widespread severe weather event that'll be occurring starting tomorrow up in Washington and Oregon. That is bizarre, right? And especially we'll be continuing on through 29th, 30th, and 31st through the Great Plains, Dixie Alley into the Mid-Atlantic regions. And at the end of the video, we'll be doing a briefing on the northern light potential over the next few nights and going into great depth about how to read some of the charts. For all that, let's start off with today's severe weather risk. We have a level 1 out of 5, so a marginal risk of severe weather here across the Dallas area, going into Sherman, Fort Worth, Waco, Texas, Ardmore. Yeah, we're talking about some severe weather that could occur there or is already occurring there, because if we take a look here at our current weather radar here from WeatherWise, they do a lot more than just outlooks here. They even provide weather radar software, which I obviously think is really cool. You can see some of your supercells tracking across here. Look at these. Some of them even had severe thunderstorm warnings on them too, but generally that's what we're seeing right now, nothing too significant. Moving on to tomorrow's severe weather risk. Holy cow, where are we at? Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, Portland, Salem, going into Oregon and Washington here. This is ridiculous. A level 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. Yeah, this is going to be quite the event going into tomorrow. And as we take a look at some of our risks here, yes, we do in fact have a low end but non-zero tornado risk. That is pretty evident there, right? And we're going to take a look in here at your wind risk, a nice 5%. But your hail risk, we have the chance for hail larger than 2 inches in diameter. Significant hail. So for these areas, this is actually the first time, I believe the first time in recorded history that we have ever seen a significant hail risk, especially at this time of year. What is going on lately? Let me tell you what. So we're going to have to watch out for this here as we take a look at our HRRR model later on in the video. Let's take a look at our day 3 risk here for Iowa, going into Nebraska, Illinois, Missouri. I'm going a little fast here. I need to get this video done before it fully gets dark out by me. But we are seeing a level 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale that is expected. Nothing too significant there. We don't need to go over that. But then as we move into day 6 here, look at this on Sunday, we have a very large 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. This was even larger yesterday, spanning from Chicago down to, well, basically the Gulf Coast. So it was a historic risk. It has been downgraded, though. It's been, shrunken in size here, but still. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri are the states you need to be watching out for here for an all hazards potential severe weather outbreak. So we'll just have to continue monitoring that. Moving into day 7, yeah, believe it or not, this is for Monday. That's far out, right? Look at this, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Some parts of them are under a 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. A slight risk. It could be an all hazards threat, mainly going to be wind and hail driven, but it's hard to tell this far out, right? Now for our HRRR model, as we take it out through time, we can see it going into tomorrow afternoon. We actually have some supercellular thunderstorms start to fire off down near Salem and Redmond here in Oregon. I just can't get over this. Continuing on through, this is, I believe, around 4 to 5 p.m. The time zones are a little weird here. Get a nice supercell with significant hail passing near Portland. This could produce a tornado. We'll have to watch out for that. And continuing on through into the evening hours, look at this here. Big old Boeing segment of damaging winds and very large hail pushing north of Portland into Olympia. Here we got some more severe weather out here near the Dalles. I really hope that's how you pronounce that. This continues through the evening, and Seattle, Washington gets walloped by a bow echo here of damaging straight line winds and large hail going into around probably 7 to 9 p.m. tomorrow evening. And a lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning with this as well. This bow continues further north, and we just really gotta watch out for this. Your ingredients are as follows. We're going to look at your CAPE, your convective available potential energy, storm energy here. And you can see we do have quite a lot of it. Upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 across the valley here. That's absolutely ridiculous, right? Across your gorge regions, we really have got to watch out here, as you only need 1,000 joules to sustain thunderstorms. And yeah, it's very favorable in those areas. Your 0 to 1 kilometer helicity here. Again, anything in the greens is suitable for a tornado. Anything in the reds is suitable for a strong tornado, but we will not be seeing that tomorrow, so don't really need to focus on that. Some of your supercells over here in your greens and golds, so definitely suitable for tornadoes. Over here, if you get a supercell, we'll just have to wait and see, but you do need to keep your eyes on the skies. And again, turn your emergency alerts on your phone and turn your weather radio on high so you get those alerts. Supercell composite here, very elevated in your reds. I even saw a couple hot pinks. This is very strange for Oregon and Washington. It's happened before, I think a few times, but still, gonna have to watch out for that there. Significant tornado parameter, basically the same thing. A lot less getting into just your yellow colors here, because we're not going to have as much wind shear up here in helicity. Still enough to sustain tornadoes. I think you're probably going to see one tomorrow somewhere in that area. Now let's look further out at your day 6, day 7 time frame. Let's look at your trough ejection. Wait, where is it? Oh, this? Alex, you said this was going to potentially be an outbreak. What's happening? What's going on here? I understand it's getting later at night. Are you losing it? No. This is a European model, and it doesn't really agree too much on the strength of this trough. This is a very weak trough ejection here, and it would result in possibly just a couple of severe thunderstorms, and then, that's gone. We're not really seeing much after that, right? You know, maybe a little bit of an enhancement going into Sunday evening, but this is very zonal. You're not really seeing a good-looking trough ejection is what I'm trying to say. It's not even positively tilted. It just doesn't exist. And going into Monday, just a little bit of remaining wind across those areas. Now, for your 850 millibar winds, this is your low-level flow. And what? You don't have much of it across here. Could sustain maybe a tornado or two, but I'm kind of doubting it here. Going into the evening, this is just not that amplified, I'll tell you. Monday, just garbage. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. You can see your dew points, so they're okay. You can see into your low to mid 60s across these areas, so definitely suitable for severe weather, I'd say. If all your other gradients actually come into fruition, going into Monday as well, yeah, I mean, this is suitable, but definitely by no means a high-end, even a mid-end event. This is looking pretty mid, I guess, if you want to put it that way. As we go into our CAPE here, you could see definitely some pretty good amounts of storm energy, 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. So if you just had more wind shear, this wouldn't be an issue, and then it just kind of poops out going into Monday. Going into your GFS model, this is much different. Beautifully carved out trough right here. That is not really that strong, though, to be honest. This looks like a very positively tilted trough here. But it'll get its act together. You can see it even turns a bit neutral here, and you nearly getting negatively tilted shortwave on Sunday, kind of going like this. So you would expect severe weather out ahead of it in your right exit region here, and this would be a lot more significant. This would signal an outbreak to likely occur. Look at that. Very beautiful. Going into Monday, kind of the same thing. You do have some flow overhead, so severe weather, again, would be expected. So your GFS, honestly, I think is your best bet, at least for this first severe weather event. Once in the future, don't trust it at all. And I set our settings a bit wrong here. Going into Sunday here, on your low-level flow, definitely enough. See some of your red colors, so it is suitable for tornadoes. And yeah, look at that overnight. A nice little meso low forming here and really cranking in your wind shear. Could promote potentially an isolated strong tornado, but again, this is one model run out of two that we just looked at that are in full disagreement. and even decent wind shear going into Monday, but a lot less amplified. It's not like this, it's like this. So yeah, not going to be as favorable here. Your dew points here looking quite favorable, especially overnight into your mid to even upper 60s across some of these areas. And moving into Monday, same song and dance there. Here is your storm energy here, and you could see definitely plenty of it throughout these areas. Some dry and warm air aloft could maybe prohibit some thunderstorm development. We'll just have to see. That could honestly increase your tornado threat slightly. We'll wait for that. Going into Monday, yeah, you definitely have a nice open warm sector here where storms, severe weather can fire off at ease. And your supercell composite here, basically the same thing in your oranges and in your reds. So yeah, definitely a more moderate event here. Not a moderate risk, but a moderate event. So we'll just have to see with this. Again, we'll just have to see. That's a common catchphrase because we have major disagreements between the Euro and the GFS. And yeah, some yellows and oranges going across Carolinas. That definitely looks favorable. Now, what about after that? Let's look at your European model. Whoa! Low-level jet alert. Look at that. Potent southwest to southerly flow here in your low level. So severe weather will be here to stay. And definitely could see it maybe a little more severe weather going out in time. And wow, yeah. Another event. Look at that right there. And this right here would be something to really watch for. Nice low pressure system here, kind of a bowling ball look, and tons of warm, unstable air getting advected out of the Gulf and pulled really far north here. That is going to be something to watch for the plains going later in towards the end of the month. Actually, really, starting early April here is where we could expect this to occur, and you could just see stuff like this continue, and no, no, and no. I don't want to see any more I am done with that. It is going to be April. Birds are going to be chirping. There's going to be leaves on the trees. It's going to be 80 degrees, and this is not allowed. I'm not letting that in. Your GFS model here, same song and dance. We finally have some agreement. So consistent, persistent, low-level flow here. Severe weather will become a norm for a pretty large area. Just generally severe weather, probably not much of a tornado threat, but you could see more of that going into early April. And then, of course, this model wants to show more of, well, the four-letter word. I'm not going to say it again because it seemed a bad word this time of year. We can't be saying stuff like that, and not gonna happen. This is fantasy land. You're not gonna see your low pressure just randomly go back up into Canada. That's not how that works. Now, here's your mean supercell composite on your GEFS model for your signal. Look at that. Definitely a strong signal going into Saturday. Now, I would like to note, it's going to be a lot of dry air aloft, so probably not going to see any storms form in this pretty favorable environment, I'd say. As we go into Sunday, definitely looking a lot better here. You can see your widespread yellow region here through here. That is where you could expect your severe weather to really fire off and push off to your northeast. And then Monday, yeah, you don't have a signal much at all. So we'll have to see going into early April. Plains begin to light up like a firework here. Of course, there's, again, lots of capping, lots of warm, dry air aloft that will probably prevent a majority of these events from getting going. And really, just see this lingering signal continuing on into mid-April. Alright, and let's move into part 2 of the video, something that I don't like to talk about much because it's a very complicated field to get into, space weather forecasting. It's very complicated, and it puts a lot of stress on other forecasters for someone like me to be talking about it as if I know everything, which I don't, obviously. But we're just going to kind of take it step by step here and just know that nothing I'm about to say is even a guarantee. So just go into this with an open mind. Don't be too hopeful with what you're about to see. But anyways, oh my gosh, everyone panic. There's a hole in the sun. Oh, this is going to be terrible. Could you imagine just everything coming towards Earth? No. This is called a coronal hole. This is completely normal. In fact, towards the end of your solar maximum, you're going to begin to see a lot more of these on the sun. What is it basically? Well, it's basically, I guess you could say, a hole in the sun, or at least a hole in the sun's material, where a lot of solar wind originates from. So basically you have a pocket of very strong solar wind right here that is going to be heading towards Earth. And no, this is not doomsday. Everyone is going to be a-okay. In fact, this would promote potentially some northern light activity. So see, not really doomsday after all. You could see your auroral oval, they call it aurora, so if you hear me say that word, that means northern lights. You can see, look at this, spanning across, a pretty large area here. This is where your oval originates from, obviously near the poles, right? And tonight we are expecting a G1 geomagnetic storm. So, as you can see here, your auroral oval could dip into your mid-latitude regions. We really got to watch. And your view line, your southernmost extent, even dipping down to areas like Chicago here, that might be kind of interesting, and maybe if you can get out in the open, you might see something. And I'm about to talk to you in a minute about how substorms can drastically change where this line ends up when you look at your real-time data. And here's tomorrow night's forecast as well. Yes, I did in fact change the image, but it is the same thing. It doesn't really change much because, it's still the same exact, level of storming, I guess you could say. So your line's going to be in the same areas. And, with substorming, your line could be pushed down a little bit further south here. Again, we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening. Now, what we do know is this. This is spaceweatherlive.com here, and you could see a lot of information on everything space weather-wise, almost a little too much information, especially for people who are first getting into the field. Well, I'm going to take you a little bit step by step. So we're looking at our KP index here. This is your planetary index, and arguably not the most efficient way to measure aurora, but we're at a KP4 right now. We're in the active stage of a geomagnetic storm. Could we reach G1 conditions tonight? Likely. And I say likely because we're about to, look at those real-time conditions. Your auroral oval over here, you can see it extending a little bit further south. Not quite in the US yet, still in Canada and in the poles. You can see some yellow starting to build up here, in the north and then the south pole, obviously. This is expected to drop further south throughout the night and start glowing in your orange and even red colors. You will, potentially be seeing this. And our next product here is going to be your solar wind. And you can see it's pretty low right now, right? 380 kilometers a second. I would like to see us closer to, 500 for a significant event. But still, you can see this is going to increase over the next few days as our coronal hole arrives with all your fast solar wind. Now, let's move into your interplanetary magnetic field. This is where stuff gets interesting, right? We could see at a BT of 16.47 nanotesla right now. This, I'd say, is quite a moderate reading. Usually it sticks around the 5 to 8 nanotesla region. So seeing it all the way up to a 16 is very promising. But, of course, this is not the only piece to the puzzle. Let's move further down into your BZ. Well, you can see your BZ is currently down to a -8, so it is pointed south. And if it's pointed south, it basically charges up your magnetic field, like up in the poles and stuff. It could actually push your auroral oval further and further south throughout the night. So if you want to see aurora tonight, I'd say having a value this low, that's pretty good. And we'll see if it gets lower. But especially for my area into your central mid-latitudes, I would look for something below -10 for those. And this will look a lot more vibrant over the next few days because your magnetic field is already getting significantly preconditioned. We're not even in the coronal hole yet, and it's already looking good. Now, I have one last thing to show you. This is your magnetometer data. So we're looking at our GOES 16 and GOES 18. These are basically your satellites up in space right now, taking all the pictures of the pretty clouds, what you see on NOAA, right? What we're seeing right here is basically a substorm. incense. So I would look for the blue line here and notice this. This was not last night, but the night before. We didn't have really much of a geomagnetic storm. You know, your aurora did get all the way down to Maine, but then stuck around Canada for the rest of the night, except here. So we had a value right here, and all of a sudden, we get this big old just jump, this burst, this spike upwards here. This was around 4 a.m. Would you want to know how far south the Northern Lights went for about a 10-minute period? They went down to Nevada when this happened. This is what you would call a major substorm. So when you see, your line all the way down here, look, it's around your 50 value here, and it spikes all the way up to about 76. That is a major increase, and this is just in a 9 to 10-minute time frame. So when you get these big spikes here, that can really quickly, bring your northern lights much further south in an instant. So we're going to be watching these tonight to see if anyone in the mid-latitudes gets lucky enough to maybe see a substorm and to see the northern lights. And with that being said, that was a very long explanation. I'll have to chop that down a bit. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please smash the like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, and share this with friends, family on social media so they know about the severe weather and